Sadly, cybercrime is one of the fastest growing markets in the world, and ransomware is one of the most profitable segments of cybercrime in the world. Just this week, we had one of the largest hospital chains in America hit by ransomware and shut down for several days. We had the second largest shipping corporation in the world shut down by ransomware just this week. Those are two large corporations. We had a vet up the street from my house, mom and pop business, shut down by ransomware. So large or small, ransomware is out there. There are things that businesses can do to protect themselves. And I wanted to talk to you today about a couple of those things that I think are absolutely critical, and they're not really that hard to implement. When we look at ransomware, we have to understand it's a very simple thing. A villain gets on your network, they figure out what's important, and then they encrypt it so that you can't use it, and then they want you to pay them money so that they can unlock it. So how do you stop this? Number one, back up your data on a regular basis. There are three basic methods of backup that need to be considered. Number one is simply make a backup copy of the data on a regular basis. Number two, back up the data to what's called a write once, read many type devices. And we'll talk about that in more detail. And step three is to back up to an external, not on a network device that can't be corrupted. So let's talk about each one of those. Number one, when you're doing a backup, make sure it's timely. Make sure you identified all the right sources of data that you need to back up. Far too often I've seen businesses think they're doing backups, and when they get hit by ransomware and try to recover, they find out they really weren't backing up half the data they needed. So really sit down, come up with a plan, identify all the data that needs to be backed up, make sure you're backing it up in a timely manner. Whether you do that real time on the fly, whether you do that at least once a day, let's make sure we say at least once a day, do a backup. So you're never more than 24 hours out of sync. Number two, do a backup to a device that's what's called a write once, read many. Why do you want to do that? Because that device cannot be encrypted. The villains, no matter how good their software, cannot get on that device and encrypt that data. That data will always be readable. It cannot be changed in any form, which includes it can't be encrypted. So that gives you a high level of comfort and confidence that that data is going to be protected against a ransomware attack. But that's only so good. I always say go to level number three. I physically make an off-site backup of all of my data on a regular basis. So back your data up in three different places, back it up in three different mediums, and have one of those mediums be completely disconnected from a network any place. So you need to be encrypting your data as well as backing it up. The reason you want to encrypt your data is that the bad guys can interpret and pick and track and copy the data real time while you're using it. So you could lose all of the proprietary information about your latest product that you're developing right now. China could have it in production in 3 weeks, while you're not going to have it in production for 6 months, and beat you to the market and sell it for 20% what you were planning to charge for it. So incredibly valuable assets could be stolen because they weren't encrypted. I recommend that everybody keep everything important on their network encrypted real time. Again, the technology's out there today to do it automatically for you, to make it easy, to make it reliable. Most databases today automatically will encrypt if you simply turn on that feature in the database. Most important, again, have good procedures. It's not just enough to have good technology. I have to have the right procedures. I have to document what the important data is. I have to document when I'm backing it up, where I'm backing it up to, how I'm backing it up, how I'm encrypting it, how I'm going to restore it, who's going to restore it, where do they restore it to. Document that process from beginning to end, assuming you're going to get hit next week and that you've got everything in place to recover from that hit very quickly in a very timely fashion. So be one of the businesses that's smart and prepared for cybercrime. Document, write down all the correct procedures. Don't be one of those 61% of businesses who don't back up the data. Don't be one of those 89% of businesses who don't use encryption. Be one of the 10%, be one of the 5%, be one of the smart ones that's prepared. So when you're hit by cybercrime, you can recover in minutes, or hours instead of weeks or months. If you have questions, ask an expert. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them available. There's a lot of technology available. There's a lot of solutions available. The number one best solution for cybercrime, by the way, is use a layered approach. Don't just depend on your firewall. Don't just depend on a cybersecurity software product. Don't just depend on a client agent. Think about a layered architecture that looks at all the aspects of cybercrime and make sure you're covered in all of those areas. You should be prepared for it. You should know what's going to happen. So, hope you have a great day. Hope you've enjoyed what I've told you.